Good morning, one and all. I,
Good
Cinema
morning.
Batra, welcome you all in another joyful webinar on art integrated learning. Today, we all have gathered here on this virtual platform to take another step on the ladder of growth. Growth is a process. You just don't wake up and become the butterfly by shedding the cocoon. It is gradual and needs certain environmental triggers and nurturing too. To nurture our professional and intellectual growth, we have with us today's resource person, torchbearer of our zone, Dr. Mrs. Rashmi Vij, ARO Jalandhar zone, who had always been instrumental in the growth. As Mem always says, may it be light or heat, growth is must. Her prolific mind, novel ideas, lofty thought, and visionary leadership has always blazed the trail and illuminated our paths. Her persona as a teacher, her extensive research, deep knowledge, has always sparked enthusiasm amongst us. She inspires us to be the dedicated teacher. She has taught us to own the learning of our students, as she has always owned the learning of the teachers of her zone. आप जैसे उस्ताद का एहतराम आप जैसे उस्ताद का एहतराम शुक्रिया उन इबारतों में जो आपने पढ़ाया शुक्रिया हर उस जर्रे और कतरे के लिए जिसने सबको अब्र से अर्श तक राह दिखाया वेलकम मैम इट इज़ अ ग्रेट ऑनर फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस टू हैव another vibrant day with you ma'am. I also welcome Mr. Yogesh Gambhir, Principal, DRV DAV Public School, Philor, our cluster head of Jalandhar Zone, who is an embodiment of hard work and makes the execution of every training program possible. Welcome, sir. I also welcome all the principals of Jalandhar Zone to this webinar. My welcome is due to the wonderful participants of the day. Wish you all a very happy learning. Now I request ma'am to begin the program.
Ma'am, excuse me, your mic is off.
Sorry. Thank you for pointing out. I didn't realize it. So I'll begin from the beginning that I was saying that I welcome all the participants and especially my fellow colleague principals whoever we have all gathered here today for another day of learning and interaction. I seek this opportunity to thank our worthy director, Dr. Nisha Peshin, under whose guidance our DAVCEE is achieving great heights and reaching excellence actually. It is under their guidance that we are starting another series of our training programs, starting with this first virtual program, which will, as we have emphasized, God willing, everything goes fine, that after this webinar, which is collective, in which around 100 participants are in the Zoom meeting and the rest of the participants are attending it on the live streaming on the YouTube. And so we thought that all the teachers, I know that we have conducted this training program for the art and craft teachers, all the music dance teachers and the coordinators in the past. But we realized that it could not be implemented because all the teachers did not get trained into it. We had a plan that perhaps coordinators would train the teachers forward, but we realize that unless and until everybody is not able to have the total grip of the whole thing, uh, we cannot implement it in our school. And then, we are like, our mind is like a 2 or 3 year old child. When learning something new, he has to be reminded again and again. If we tell a 3 year old child think something once and we expect that now he will do it exactly as we have said, it won't be possible. So I think whenever we have to implement something new, it requires a continuous reinforcement. So keeping that in mind, we decided to have this program again for all the teachers. And we planned that it will be held virtually, but after that, it will be split subject wise, and all the subject teachers would sit in one room and make the lesson plans for the whole year as per the guideline of CBSE. Now, the big question arises that why art integration? Why are we talking about experiential and why are we insisting on art integration? Now, I want to tell all of you that I hope that all of you have attended the workshop on NEP being conducted by CBSE and being made mandatory for all the teachers. Why it is being made mandatory? Why they are insisting that please understand it? Because the focus of our government is on changing the uh, uh, face of Indian education totally. They want a paradigm shift in the way education is transacted in our classrooms. And it has not been happening so far. Well, there have been minor changes here and there, but ultimately it is the rat race of the marks. The teacher gives the knowledge, she transacts the knowledge, and she hopes that children will do very well in the exam. But when the exams are conducted, the children don't do well. We all understand that sometimes when we are conducting these kind of workshops like on CBE or experiential learning or art integrated learning, many of you would be thinking that what's the use? Eventually, our principal is going to ask what was the QPI. The management is going to ask what is the QPI, right? So one single purpose all of us have is to eventually improve our QPI. And when the QPI doesn't come good, when the result is not good, and you talk to various teachers, why do you think the result was not good? One single answer which most of the teachers give is that children don't want to study. बच्चे पढ़ना ही नहीं चाहते. This is the constant reply. And I have been getting calls from the principals that class grade 11 students especially are insisting that make our exams of online. Other schools are doing online exam. You also make it online. And do you realize why are they saying it? Because they have actually not studied. And now they are scared of the exams because all this while they had thought that they will get away by cheating and doing the exams at home. But now they have to face the offline exams. And why do you think our children are not studying? Have we ever tried to address this problem? That why are our children not studying despite all our best efforts? You as a teacher would say, I put in all my best effort, but these children have not studied. So if we track it down somewhere down the line, why they are not studying, of course, one common
Excuse me,
reply.
ma'am, can't hear you.
Beta, you check your device. Others, can you hear it?
It's very much audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
audible.
Ma'am, it's
Please check
audible,
your
ma'am.
Check your
device.
device. Yes,
It's
because
audible, ma'am. It's okay. You can continue, ma'am. You please continue, ma'am.
so if we ask that why are the children not studying, we will all agree on one thing. If I ask you, they are not motivated. They are not inspired, right? Why are they not motivated and inspired? Now we got the basic problem. They are not motivated. They are not inspired. They are not interested in the classroom. They are not interested in the studies, right? All of us would agree to that. Now, why are they not interested? We have to get down to that. That is what our government is trying to do. That is why CBSE is trying to do. And they are not interested because we are not changing with time. Our children are very fast paced. They want everything to be interesting. They want something to be new all the time. And we are trying to serve the old wine in the same old bottles. No, we are not even changing the bottles. If we were to compare a classroom of 100 years ago, the teacher was in front of the blackboard. She was busy teaching, imparting the knowledge. Children were asked to retain that knowledge and then reproduce it in the exam. That is what we have conceived education so far. And children have no choice. Every child has to study in the same manner and give the same exam in the same set pattern. And that is the root cause of the problem. Because there is no choice. We're not giving them any kind of choice. If you took children to a restaurant, whenever we go to a restaurant, we like buffet because the choices are laid down. We can choose what I want to eat and we'll realize everybody wants to eat different food. So we are all cut differently. And we all might like different food. So similarly, every child is different and he might like to have different food. So similarly, he might like to study in a different way, or he might like to give an exam in a different way, or learn something in a different way. So this is what we have to realize. And that is why when we are talking of these children who need some 21st century skills, we have to remember that even our NEP has shortlisted 4 important skills which our 21st century learner must have. One is collaboration, the other is communication, third is the critical thinking, and fourth is creativity. So these are the 4 C's which we are looking at: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. Now, our education must encourage these things, and they come naturally to me. Think of a person who lived in the cave era, stone era, when they had to do hunting. If they had to do hunting of a big elephant, a big animal, how would they do? Would they do it without collaboration? No, they could not. For that collaboration, of course, communication was essential. They had to sit down and plan a strategy. And that strategy required some critical thinking, problem solving, and a new way of thinking out of box. When I first came to know how are the elephants captured, we are just such big. I came to know that they dig a pit, put grass on the top of it, and the elephant is mistaken and he crosses the grass and he goes in the pit, and then they pull out the elephant now who is helpless. Now, all this requires collaboration, it requires communication, it requires critical thinking, it requires creativity. So every area has developed its own creative way of handling these animals. That's how man has overpowered all the big creatures of the world. Because we are naturally born with these 4 C's, and our education must encourage these things. So for that, we have to change our classroom from the teacher-centered classroom to the student-centered classroom. For that, as I always say, we need to perceive the role of the teacher not as the sage on the stage, but on the guide on the side. We have to have a paradigm shift. I have to change with changing times, with the changing requirements of the education. So I have to stop perceiving myself as a teacher. I have to perceive myself as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide. As I always say, remember that times have gone when all the knowledge and information was with you only. It is equally available on Google for all the children. So how do we cater differently to different children? Now, if we have to produce children for the 21st century, this is the time when any information later on in life, any knowledge they want, it will be available to them on the Google. But what will not be available is that human element of that creativity. I sometimes am wonderstruck that who invented Facebook or who invented GPS? Wasn't it a creative thinking? Wasn't it somebody who thought out of box creatively? When I think of Facebook, few friends might have sat down in a university and thinking, where are my other friends? I have no way to connect those my friends who were in the school. Let's find out a platform where we can connect with our old friends. Maybe it started like that, or somebody was really searching for an old friend. And this idea came that if we had a common platform like this on internet, then maybe we can come across all our friends. So one moment of that eureka, that creative thinking, and it changed it all. It changed the world forever, right? So we understand, our all parents understand, students understand that we need sciences. Ask any bright child, what do you want to do? And he'll say, I want to do non-medical. Why? It is the era of science. It is the era of engineering, right? It is the era of physics. We understand that. But are we just going to be a laborer in that industry? Or am I going to invent something or create something? And for me to succeed even in engineering, I need to have a lot of creativity if I really want to succeed. I've been to Google campuses, Facebook campuses. They are looking for creative people. They're not looking for engineers. They're easy to find. But what is difficult to find is that creative person who will create something new and add value addition to that. So that, and when we talk of sciences, they are like fixed. This happens, this, and so equation is this. They're fixed. There's lack of creativity in that. And where does the creativity lie? The creativity lies in the arts. So unless and until we do not teach arts to our children, they will not be able to do well in their sciences also. So first of all, whether you are a science teacher, whether you are a social study teacher, whether you are a maths teacher, please understand this. Why art integration? That is why I wanted to go in the detail of that thing, why art integration is being emphasized, why it is being drilled again and again, and CBSE is making it mandatory for you to integrate art, because we cannot do sciences also without art. There was a lot of focus on STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, maths. But now it is being changed to STEAM. That is science, technology, arts, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Because everybody is realizing that if we kept art aside, it will not happen. Now, if you were to think about art, uh, art only gives you an ability to think differently. When I talked about critical thinking, where it comes from? It comes from art. If we were to think about a culture, when we visit a country, what do we see? We go to see their museums, we go to see their art, or we go to see their buildings, that's their architecture, that is science. So art makes a culture and science makes a civilization. And they are both important for any country. When we go to a country, we want to see their art because it's their art that makes them and different from us. They don't make us them you because they make themselves, like art is the thing that makes their country special. Come to think of it, that had Renaissance time not encouraged art in Europe, all those European countries will not have so much of tourism. When you go to Rome, you go to see their huge cathedrals, their churches, their museums, which are full of paintings. Even their cathedrals have so many paintings. So that uniquely, when they say a line, if you want to see what God has made, go to Sweden. But if you want to see what God has, what man has made, then go to Rome, because it is an amazing city where the best of the art of the world is at display, because the European rulers of that time really funded art. So if you have to see the progress of a country, see how well it treats its creative people, because they are the ones who are doing out-of-box thinking, who are cutting across the label of all being similar. And when our children do art, because in art there is nothing and right or wrong, we come out of the distinction of this is a bright child, this is not so bright child. Generally, our classrooms, we have differentiated in 3 categories, which I have also been touching about differentiation learning. That is very good average, and not so good. But in art, everybody could be good, because art is an expression of me, myself, right? And the way I see things, there might not be anything right or wrong. So that is what the importance of art integration is. And now I'm going to start my presentation today on art integration. Give me a minute, I'll just share my screen. So, as it is, you can see the beautiful quote. It is art that makes life, makes interest, makes importance, and know of no substitute for the forces and beauty of its process. So it is corresponding to what I told you just now, that if you really want to create interest, because the child is programmed, it is planned in him, because art or creativity gives us a pleasant feeling. Have you ever felt, many of you might do during the this webinar also, that whenever we are sitting free and we have a pen in our hand, what do we start doing? We start scribbling on a paper, right? And we start making some interesting piece of art, which is my art. I go on elaborating it. It means it generates something pleasant in me. I'm interested in that. So that itself tells you a small little thing which you might be doing just now, that how it comes naturally to every child to just scribble and make something because it has, and then you start enjoying, oh, maine banaya. Look, it is so beautiful. I've enjoyed making it. You give any work of art to any child, and this is what he would say. So I do not want art for few any more than I want education for a few or freedom for a few. So far, you would say that yes, children have been doing art in the school. Now, what is different? This is what is different. That we have selected, oh, you are good in music, you will do music. If you happen to be good in dance, you will do dance. If you are happen to be good in drawing, okay, you pursue drawing. But it's not like that. We want it for everybody so that every child benefits from it. Recently introduced annual pedagogy plans to enable all stakeholders to follow competency-based education. The underlying focus of CB is attainment of each of the grade and subject appropriate LOs and demonstration and application of learning in real life situation by the learners. CBAE can be implemented only through innovative and joyful experiential pedagogies such as art integrated and sports integrated learning, storytelling, etc., which promotes reflection, critical thinking, creativity, initiation, self-direction, and other 21st century skills. So as you know, we have already conducted a workshop webinar on CBE. Now CBSE is focusing on the CBE. And in CBE, what is important is that learning outcomes are achieved. And how are the learning outcome achieved? By the application of learning, right? So CBE can be implemented only through innovative and joyful experiential pedagogies, such as art integration. So art integration tops the experiential learning pedagogy. And of course, the sports integration is there, storytelling extra. Why? Because as I shared with you earlier, that we have to encourage the 21st century skills of creativity and critical thinking, collaboration, communication. And it is only through art that we can promote this among our students. Art integration is an approach to teaching in which students construct and demonstrate understanding through an art form. Students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets evolving objectives in both. Now, give me a minute to explain this. That what is art integration? Please try to understand it clearly. When we use a technique of art, any method of art, to teaching some other concept, to make them understand some other concept. We are only using art form as a medium for the child to understand some other concept so that students engage in a creative process which connects one art form, another subject area, and meets evolving objectives in both. जैसे अभी मैंने बात की कि the purpose is about achieving a learning outcome. Purpose is किसी भी concept की clarity बच्चों को दिलाना. That is my purpose. Now I am using any art form to improve the understanding and application of that learning of that concept. And in the process, of course, what I will be encouraging? I will be encouraging the creativity and I will be encouraging the critical thinking. And what will be the outcome? That my learning objective would be reached. Recently, I've been checking a lot of experiential learning lesson plans. Teachers have been sending them to me. And my one big question to them is, which learning outcome is being met? Sometimes I find we have made a beautiful lesson plan, but I really fail to understand what were the learning outcomes, even in art integration. And then it says that evolving objectives in both, that maybe my objective was that the child understands the concept and similarly at the same time some new art form. मैंने गाना गाना भी सीख लिया, मैंने पेंटिंग करना भी सीख लिया, मैंने पेपर माशी भी सीख लिया. So मेरा लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव था, मैंने सपोजिंगली प्लैनेट्स बनाने थे और उसके लिए मैंने पेपर माशी से प्लैनेट्स बनाए. तो क्या मेरा एक आर्ट का भी लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव दैट वाज टू लर्न द टेक्निक ऑफ paper mache was also achieved. At the same time, my purpose was to teach them planets. So that is why we need to understand what is art. Art is a creative expression of an individual. This expression can be verbal, written, and enactment, or it can be visual or any other form that has the potential or the ability to communicate human thoughts. So art is a creative expression. I have been talking about it. And then expression could be verbal, written, enactment, anything, visual or performing arts, but it has the potential to communicate human thoughts. So that is why I said, my dear teachers, first and foremost, you need to understand that it is the art in which nothing is right or wrong. But it is my way of communicating my emotions, my thoughts. I might find it. So many times we can go to the children level and think, in this situation, how would they like to communicate their thoughts? When I'm picking up which art form to teach through, I have to think what they would really enjoy, what will make their expression better. So art is a place for children to learn to trust their ideas themselves and to explore what is possible. This is what is art. When they trust their ideas, I wanted to express it like this. Something we have been teaching art teachers for a long time, that don't expect your kind of flower to be the only flower. Nature has made thousands of varieties of flowers. So any child wants to make any flower, it cannot be wrong. So it is my flower. I like my flower. If you ask every child to draw their own flower, he will draw their own flower and not the flower which the art teacher has drawn. Right? So here the children learn to trust their ideas themselves and to explore what is possible. So art education and art integrated education, are they the same? We need to understand the difference. Art education is the process that encourages sensory exploration. It provides a platform to work with ideas and materials to create expression which might not be expressed by words alone. So that why do we teach art? Because it encourages all the sensory exploration. जब बच्चा कुछ भी बनाता है हाथों से, कुछ भी डांस करता है, कुछ भी singing करता है, so his whole body experience is there, all his senses are being involved, all his motor elements are also being involved. But अब AIL कैसे फर्क है? AIL में we work with arts at the center of the curriculum. The abstract concepts, I still can't read the whole thing. So in AIL, we work with the arts at the center of the curriculum. The abstract concepts of subject will be explored using different art forms. Now, why AIL? I have been trying to make you understand. I want to encourage you, motivate you to use art integration because there's some such abstract concept of our various subjects. बेटा हमें आते हैं इसलिए हमें आसान लगते हैं, हमें लगता है कि हमने बच्चों को समझा दिया. मैं बार बार सेम बातें रिपीट कर रही हूँ बिकॉज क्यों कर रही हूँ रिपीट? क्योंकि मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि आम टीचर को समझ नहीं आती ये बात, आम टीचर कन्विंस नहीं हो पाती है. तो ऐसे ही हमारे बच्चे को भी बहुत सारी बातें हैं जो समझ नहीं आती हैं, वो कन्विंस नहीं हो पाता है. तो अगर हम उसे पता भी ना लगे कि हम उसको कुछ पढ़ा रहे हैं, कुछ सिखा रहे हैं, वो सोचे मैं आर्ट ही कर रहा हूँ और उस प्रोसेस में उसको किसी सब्जेक्ट का बहुत ही एक डिफिकल्ट कॉन्सेप्ट समझ आ जाए तो वो कैसा रहेगा? Right? So that is the thing, that the abstract concept of the subject will be explored by using different art forms. So the purpose in art integration is that we take some abstract concept, some difficult concept of one or two subjects, interlink them, and then teach them through one of the art forms. Why is art integration necessary in education? It helps the child to apply art-based investigation and exploration, critical thinking, and creativity for deeper understanding of concepts, prompt creative thinking, and problem-solving ability. I have been repeating it again and again because art-based inquiry से बच्चे के अंदर investigation करने की, exploration करने की, critical thinking और creativity करने की, और किसी भी concept को deeply understand करने की problem solving ability और creativity encourage होती है. Makes learning experiential. We have done it in experiential learning that all concepts have to be taught through experiential learning, as it enables students to derive meaning and understanding directly from the learning experience. Makes teaching learning process joyful, develops life skills like communication skills and inquiry skills, develops confidence and high self-esteem, appreciation for aesthetics and creativity. Broadens the mind of the students, enabling him or her to see the multidisciplinary links between subjects, topics, and real life. अब हमारे बच्चे को पढ़ाई बोरिंग क्यों लगती है? मैं एक दिन सोशल स्टडी टीचर्स के साथ एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग के ऊपर बात कर रही थी और मैं उनको कह रही थी कि किसी भी बच्चे से पूछें कि आपको कौन सा सब्जेक्ट पसंद नहीं है, तो जनरली दे वुड से सोशल स्टडीज. एंड यू नो व्हाई? Because we have disengaged social study from the real life. These days in my school, I am observing, much to my surprise, but my pleasure, that psychology is getting very popular among children. Children are opting for sciences and they want to take psychology as an option. Students are doing commerce and then they want to do psychology. Ask any child in arts, what do you want to do? I want to pursue psychology. I sometimes wonder, how come this craze of psychology? And I realized because the moment a child starts studying psychology or reads something about it somewhere, he can relate to it. He feels it makes me understand people better. Because he finds connections. Whatever it is talking, it is making sense. It is applicable because it connects with the real life. So what happens is, whenever we take away a subject like history, why children not say, I find history the most boring thing? Why? Because they feel it was something in the past, it has happened, and not connected to my real life. But if we could find those connections to my real life, to what we do today, was because of this history, isn't it? He will start enjoying it. So broadens the mind of the student, enabling him or her to see the multidisciplinary links between subjects, topics, and real life. आज जो हम करते हैं, आज जो हम खाते हैं, उसका history से क्या connection है? I sometimes, when I meet people from Iran, I'm surprised how their dishes and our dishes are common. How the kebab is the same word or naan is the same word. So I wonder which rural brought kebab and naan to India. We think it is Indian. Basically, it is Iranian. So some Iranian ruler came and brought this food to India. If we could teach our children to find those connections, right? At the same time, cook naan and kebab at home. So what we will do is that we will tickle all their senses, make it multidisciplinary, linked it various things, linked with real life, and they will never forget it, right? So this is what we have to do in art integration. So it's a pedagogy where art becomes the basis of teaching learning process, an opportunity for students to experience visual as well as performing arts to build his or her understanding of the different concepts and subjects, holistic, joyful, and experiential learning. So this is very important for everybody to understand that art integrated learning is basically a pedagogy which has to become the basis of all teaching and all learning, because it gives an opportunity to students to use the visual arts, the performing arts to build their understanding of the various concepts of various subjects. And it makes it very holistic, joyful, and experiential. I want to tell you that when we do a small little activity in the class, supposingly, I go to grade 2nd or 3rd, and I have a glass of water in my hand. And I tell children, okay, let me select a drop here. Let me select a drop here. And let me pick it up and let me pick it up. Oh, it's clinging. Why is this droplet clinging to my hands? The water flows, but this droplet here is clinging to my hand. Why it is clinging? I wonder. Otherwise, the water falls. But this droplet has suddenly loves me, has decided to stay with me. And we encourage all children to take a drop out of your water bottle and see if it clings. Now, when a child thinks about it, why it clings? It is still clinging. You know, it is surprising that this droplet is still clinging to my hand. Oh my God. Whatever clings is which has adhesive, जिसमें चिपकने की क्वालिटी हो, तो क्या पानी में चिपकने की क्वालिटी है? So it is clicking because water has a property of being adhesive and cohesive. I might study it in class 7 or 8, the properties of water, the physical or chemical properties of water, but it will encourage my curiosity right from class 1. And I'll start thinking, why does water or any liquid flow? Have I ever thought about it? We wait till when many a times when I ask teachers that why have you not taught it this way? So they will come, no ma'am, the properties of the liquid, solids and gases come in class 7. So it is then we will teach them. It is such a frustrating moment for me when teachers think that I'm going to talk about it when it is in the syllabus. We forget that the joy of learning is always there. The out-of-box thinking always has to be there. Once I went to a kindergarten class and I took a bag of boxes like this, which appeared like this. And I took this bag full of boxes and I told all the kindergarten children that each one of you will get this box, right? So now They were very excited that they are going to get this beautiful box, one each. When I opened this, I said, oh my God, I can see myself in it. It has my mirror image. So this I cannot give you because this one has my mirror image. I took out another and opened and just said, oh my God, again I can see Rashmi in it. Oh, I cannot give it to you. Now the disappointment started coming. The moment I picked up another, a child said, ma'am, don't look inside. Don't look inside. Because they thought that again I would say even this one has. So I still looked. Oh, sorry. And the other child said, ma'am, don't open it. Don't open it. Right? So a third child said and stood up and said, ma'am, are you stupid? Don't you know that every box will have your mirror image in it? Oh my God, I didn't know. Right? But now what happens is children even in class UKG or class 1 would know that anything which has a sharp surface, clean surface, my mirror image would come in that. It can be used as a mirror. And what is the mirror? It triggers the thought process then and there. So point is that whenever you enter into any class, anywhere, anytime, do something so much interesting in the classroom, which can be called as an energizer, as an ice-breaking activity we generally have in all the workshops when people are sitting dull and concerned at a whole day of boring lecture. And the moment I do an icebreaker or energizing activity, now everybody feels, oh, this class is going to be fun. This resource person is interesting. And later on, he might shift to the lecture mode like I have shifted, right? But then what is the point? Making it joyful. The purpose is that right from my beginning of my class, I should look for more joy in my class. So won't it be easy for me to retain the attention of all my students if I did something small like this? You know, there is a lot of research which is going on, which says that if in the beginning of the class, without teaching some thing, you give a quiz to children, right? You give them a quiz that this is the topic I'm going to teach. They will say, we don't know anything about this topic, but I am going to give you a quiz. Just check if you can give the responses. Now, when they attempt the quiz, of course, their responses might go wrong or right. But all through the class, they will be attentive, trying to check if their response was right or wrong. Right? We are also going to give you a quiz and keep you hooked like that to see that you keep thinking whether your answers were right or wrong. So the objectives of AIL is not to promote arts and skills of arts, but to use art as a tool to teach other subjects. The focus should be to accept arts as a medium of the learning process. So the subject teachers may make use of simple art forms in the classrooms and give opportunities to students to enjoy planned art activities. And while they are experiencing beauty of art, they also learn and articulate the core concept of different subjects and apply it in daily life. I hope this makes it very, very clear that objective of AIL is not only to promote arts, but to use art as a tool to teach other subjects. This is the most important line. Use art as a tool to teach other subjects. The focus should be to accept arts as a medium of the learning process. So the subject teachers may make use of simple art forms in the classroom, give opportunities to students to plan art activities, and while they're experiencing the beauty of art, जहां उनको आर्ट का मजा आ रहा होगा, साथ साथ वो उन चीजों को लर्न कर रहे होंगे और उन्हें रियल लाइफ में अप्लाई करना भी सीख रहे होंगे. एक चीज जो मैं आप सबको बार बार कहूंगी और यहाँ से शुरू कर कहूंगी, वो बात ये है कि हम आर्ट नहीं करा रहे हैं, इसलिए वो कितना नीट है, वो कितना इलैबोरेट है या कितनी डिटेल में क्या है, हम उसे नहीं देखेंगे. राइट? उसे वो बच्चा एक्सपीरियंस जरूर करेगा, उसे एंजॉय जरूर करेगा, लेकिन हमारा फोकस उस आर्ट के बाय प्रोडक्ट की क्वालिटी पे नहीं है, उसकी नीटनेस पे नहीं है। अगर हम कहें कि सिंगिंग, मैं आपको कहूं कि सारे बच्चे सिंगिंग करें, तो आप कहेंगे दे ऑल कांट सिंग, बट आई एम a music teacher who is going to judge who all can sing well? Let music teacher do that. You have to collaborate with the music teacher if you have come across a song, so that she teaches them in the right rhythm in her classroom. But for as far as your classroom is concerned, you are more concerned that they have all sung that song, they have all remembered that song, and they're enjoying that song. So by putting focus on that being the best, which a music teacher should of course attempt. If it is an artwork, painting, the art teacher should attempt, it should be the best. But as far as you as a subject teacher are concerned, your focus is on using it as a tool, as a medium of learning your core concept. So your focus is on that and not on the neatness or the final details of the art form. So what do art forms refers to? It utilizes the possibility of visual, painting, photography, printmaking, stage art, clay modeling, sculpture, applied art and craft, as well as performing arts, dance, vocal music, instrumental music, theater, puppetry, mime, storytelling, martial arts, magic performance, cinema, etc. So these are the various art forms you are already familiar with. So what does NCF 2005 say about art? So we know that we have National Frontline Curriculum 2005. It says that art, both visual and performing, need to become an important component of learning in the curriculum, especially at the primary level. Children must develop skills and abilities in these areas and not treat these as a mere entertaining fringe. Art must become an important tool in teaching learning process. Now, why is art integration valuable? It addresses multiple skills. जैसे मैंने beginning में कहा, it gives various choices to children. It builds literacy skills across subject, encourages differentiated instruction, encourages culturally sensitive curriculum. How it encourages differentiated instruction? Because every child is now building the self-esteem, I can do it. He or she is doing it in its own manner. Right? So we understand that they are all different and they will learn differently. Encourages culturally sensitive curriculum. As I talked, every culture has its own, every country, every state had its own culture. So we are developing a kind of sensitivity to that. Engages community because the focus is on seeing who is best at it. Now, develops 21st century intelligence skills. I was looking at a video and it said that it was about the Atlanta in US. So they have a school which they call the STEAM school, as I was telling you about. From STEM, it has emerged to STEAM. And they were saying that our way of teaching here is that we find a one big problem and give that problem for children to solve, because they are the 21st century learners, where in their coming times they have to solve problems. Because as once Abdul Kalam said, that our generation created the problems, children, which your generation has to find the solution. So if we have to make our children solution oriented, problem solving individuals, then let's pose them a big problem. Like they said that the city of Atlanta faces very bad weather. How can it handle its weather? Now, this is one big question given in the beginning of one term. Now, children have to ask smaller questions in this bigger question. To find out the bigger answer, they have to find out the smaller answers. So what did teachers do? They brought in people who had seen the worst of the climate disasters in the city. That children got stuck in the school buses, like it happened in Bombay when it rained heavily. The children got stuck in school buses or in schools till the night. So they brought people in the classroom who had experienced those horrors, which the havoc which the weather caused there. So one can learn from anybody. But these are the 21st century intelligence skills. How we will solve a problem which my city, my country might face. Right? Like this pandemic has come up for which the whole world was not prepared. Had we been better prepared, it would not have been so magnanimous. So enhances peer learning, powerful tool for demonstrating understanding. I've talked about it, right? So I just gave you some new thought. So AI will help in making the learning process holistic and help achieve desired learning outcomes. Art integrated learning involves working on all the three domains. I want you to understand this: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. So can anybody tell me what is cognitive? अपना माइक हटाकर आप बता सकते हैं what is cognitive and what is affective. Psychomotor everybody understands. What is cognitive? Yes, I see Sudha Sudhir. Can you tell me?
It's about thinking.
It's about thinking. And what is about affective?
Affective, we can say,
Who is it?
जब हम उसको apply कर देते हैं, it's in our daily life, or we can say कि
Very good. कौन है ये? Who is speaking?
it's Sudha.
Sudha. Okay.
Ma'am, which is related to emotions and feelings. Affective.
Yes,
Yes.
Preeti, that's right. Because generally people do not know that what does affective mean. We confuse it with effective, which is with E, right? So it is affective. So cognition is our thinking. Psychomotor is the coordination between our brain and our muscles. So more involved with our muscles, and affective is the emotions. You remember when I was doing the experiential learning webinar, I insisted that how the children feel about the whole experience. They're asked to recall, how did you feel about it? How did it make you feel? So it is very, very important. So art integrated learning involves working on all the three domains. That is why when teacher bring the experiential lesson plans to me, I say, did you make sure that the whole body was involved? That it was psychomotor as well as thinking, as well as it had an emotional component. How did it make me feel? Did I enjoy? Did I find it boring? Did it excite me? Has it left a good, pleasant memory behind it? So art integrated learning, all these three domains, cognition, psychomotor, and affective. These need to be involved simultaneously, which fulfills the pedagogical need of the competency-based learning. This involves thinking, imagining, exploring, making, experiencing, expressing, verifying, and applying the knowledge. Hence makes the entire process experiential and holistic in nature. So जैसे मैं बार बार कह रही हूँ कि हमें अगर उसको एक्सपीरियंशियल बनाना है, होलिस्टिक बनाना है, तो ये मेरे तीनों डोमेन जो है कॉग्निटिव, affective, and psychomotor have to be involved in it. So how a learner is benefited? Develops ability to observe and respond, develops problem solving strategies, develops language and vocabulary of visual and performing arts, cultivates social skills, feel good about themselves as individual, develops aesthetic awareness and appreciation for the arts. Please understand this. What is happening over the time? When I said that when we go to the other country, we go to its museums, I was wondering how many of our students, when they go with their families abroad, actually visit the museums. These days, people visit malls. People go to these, what do you call them, amusement parks. Why? Because over the years, we have made our children lose touch with their art and aesthetics. Very few children who have a real deep interest, and they don't develop interest because we have not exposed them to them in schools. In the beginning, when I used to decide where our school trip would go, and teachers would say, "बच्चे तो मैम निक्कू पार्क ही जाना चाहते हैं, बच्चे तो सिर्फ Hardy's World ही जाना चाहते हैं," and parents वहीं भेजेंगे. And I would say, don't we have a site for Mohenjo-daro where we can send our children? Has our government encouraged that? How many of such areas we have where we send our children for museums? Because over the time we have made them lose that interest. But we have to, the more we will involve them in art, the better aesthetics they will develop and better appreciation for arts they will develop. And the most importantly, they develop, what do they develop most importantly? Creativity, right? So now I'll show you one slide which sums it all so beautifully. The art is not just a nice thing to have or to do if there is a free time, or if one can afford it. Rather, paintings and poetry, music and fashion, design and dialogue, they all define who we are as a people and provide an account of our history for the next generation. You know, I talked about Rome. If you want to see what man has made, go to Rome. You know, I have been to Italy and I was so impressed about the country because it is the most creative country in the world. You know, all the top fashion brands are from Italy. All the designs are first developed in Italy. Their industry is so evolved that they're not bothered about their tourism. But all tourists of the world want to come to Venice or to Rome or Vatican. And they know their tourism will go on. Why? Because their emperors 300, 400 years back were so intelligent that they encouraged that creativity among their people. So their present generations are also equally creative. And because they are creative, that is why they have hold of the whole fashion industry of the world. Milan is known as the #1 city for fashion in the world, next to Paris. So why? Because they encourage these kind of activities in their school, in their culture. So art is just not a nice thing to have or to do if there is a free time or one can afford it. Rather, paintings and poetry, music and fashion, design and dialogue, they all define who we are as a people and provide an account of our history for the next generation. So that's what I say, that for generations to come, as I said, I find when I went there, I thought that Italians were very arrogant people. Yes, they are arrogant. Yes, they are, because they are superior. Yes, because they have their history, which they are proud of. Right? So what we do in our classroom today, what we do in our schools is going to form our history. So that is why it is important. Now, there is a beautiful video which I want all of you to see.
Though performing arts education is integral part of education,
Please mute
even
your
you
mic.
know that it's been given a more prominence in the national education policy. But still, I could feel there's a lack of momentum in the overall.
Please mute yourself. There are a lot of noises coming, so everybody can't hear the video.
Though performing arts education is integral part of the education system, even you know that it's been given a more prominence in the national education policy. But still, I could feel there's a lack of momentum in the overall education ecosystem. So I just wanted your message to the many institution, how this issue can be addressed in the coming days.
There is a very famous Subhashita which says, Sahitya Sangeeta Kala Vihinaha Sakshat Pashuhu Puchha Vishanahinaha. Anyone who does not get interested in Sahitya, Sangeeta and literature is like an animal without a tail. That's all. That means what distinguishes between a human being and an animal is the sense of appreciation of literature, music and fine arts. If that is not developed, we are not developing human qualities. I always believed that the highest sentiments of human heart find expression in music and fine arts. Therefore, how do I develop that? It has to be done in the school level itself. And as we saw, the music teachers have done a great job. I tell you, I have seen one of the finest brains that India has ever produced, Dr. Raja Ramanna, nuclear physicist of extraordinary order. He was my PhD guide. He was an extraordinary piano player. He would play every day, 1 hour piano. He performed in Shadmugananda Hall in Mumbai. 3-hour performance he gave. And before performance, he stood up and spoke only one sentence: don't assess me as a nuclear scientist who also plays piano, but assess me as a piano player. People stood up and clapped him at the end. And one lady asked him, sir, you are a nuclear physicist. Why did you study music? The answer he gave will be the answer to your question. He says, whenever I am tired of physics, music stimulates me. That is the answer Einstein also gave. When I am tired, I play violin. Therefore, these are the hobbies. Two parts you can look at it. Music can be hobby which can fill substance into your life. When your life becomes a dreary desert sand because of the beaten life, music can come as a stimulant, or it can become a vocation for yourself. I have seen outstanding performers all over the world. Pandit Bismillah Khan, I sat with him, before him, Pandit Basuraj Rajguru, Mallikarjun Mansoor, outstanding people, Bhimsen Joshi, they are greatest people at that time. Look at them, the kind of transformation they brought in themselves and in others. If you want to refine the heart of children, train them that there is something beyond academics. Yes, academics is required, no problem. But beyond academics, if you want to make the life more sublime and more subtle and more sensitive, these things are to be taught in classrooms. We have to make a conscious effort. Of course, the new education policy has been saying that it is a part of this now. There is no thing called as co-curricular and all. It becomes a curricular program itself. But that is not by itself enough. I would request music teachers or teachers who teach music, they may not be qualified people. I have seen in villages extraordinary singers, they don't have MA music, but they can come into the class and teach. I should tell you, the new education policy which has been given out, it encourages that. Supposing there is an old lady who can sing the folk songs so well, she can be brought into the school and the children can learn from her. Is a positive step. My request to people is this: don't prepare people only with brains. People should, with heart should come up. When the heart is very active, you build people who join people together. If you are developing people only with brains, most of the time we separate people from one another. If you want to separate people, stimulate brain. If you want to join people together, stimulate heart.
Yeah.
And music does it effortlessly and beautifully.
Yeah, and I think with your commendable answer, I'm sure, I think this message reaches to most of the teachers so that they can create a great environment around the education system, especially on the non-academic perspective.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. What beautiful message that if you want to separate people, stimulate brain. If you want to join people, connect people, stimulate the heart. So it is such a beautiful message because, as he rightly said, that we have to sensitize our children, shift the focus of education, and no longer think it as co-curricular activity. You know, earlier it used to be called extracurricular. You remember? Then we removed the word extra because it always showed to the parent, to the child, these were extra things, not curricular. So then we made it co-curricular. And now we are calling them only the curricular so that even co-curricular also goes away because we have to tell our children, tell our parents that it is of equal importance. So art integration allows us to build chefs who make choices, not cooks who merely follow the recipe. Now that is the focus, so beautifully said. That what is the difference? As I said, that we have engineers in our country, but why don't we have things like Facebook and Google being invented in our country? You know, because something, our children are so hardworking, so intelligent. When they go to the universities in US, they do so well. All the company CEOs are most of the time Indians. But why don't we produce such people in our classroom? Because something happens in our classroom. We say that research, whatever has been searched, you do the research again. We say this is the recipe and make it. Now, anybody who can follow the recipe will be a cook. But what differentiates between a cook and a chef? A chef, every time is making a dish, he will try to have his own element, try to innovate, think how can I make it tastier, how can I make it better, how can I make it different. So that is the purpose of art integration because we are trying to make chefs in our country. Our education policy holders are realizing that despite our children being so hardworking, so intelligent, they are not able to come up with new innovations because something is primarily wrong with our school education. You know, yesterday, all those who are interested in cricket, yesterday India beat England in the test cricket, sent it out of the series. The match, which was to be held for 5 days, finished in 2 days, right? And was thinking, I'm so proud of India. But there was a time when Indian cricket team will not win. And then we started rethinking, rebuilding it. And now it is considered as one of the most powerful teams, equally powerful with Australia. It beat Australia in one of its ground where Australia was never beaten before. Because we did some out-of-box thinking, started from scratch, started rebuilding. Why doesn't India win? And then, of course, India has huge talent. When Sachin Tendulkar retired, no vacuum was left because we had other people who replaced him soon. Right? So that is the thing, that there is no shortage of talent or hard work in India, but there's something wrong in way we breed them. So the breeding process has to change like we change in cricket. So art has the role in education of helping children become like themselves instead of more like everyone else. As I said, that a chef is like himself, is not a cook. Nobody pays a salary of 4 lakhs to a cook, but a chef gets a salary of 4 lakhs per month because you know that famous chef of India, Vikas Khanna, he is from Amritsar. And he was so ordinary in his academics there. I have known him. He was my cousin's class fellow. But he is now the world renowned. He served Indian food to Obama, to the president of America, just because he had something here. He had the ability to think differently. So that is why he was himself different, not even good in academics, but brilliant. So you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. AIL has added more responsibility to the existing role of an art teacher. The art teacher can help subject teachers in planning as well as to facilitate them in classroom teaching process as a team in a teaching mode. The art teacher can help subject teacher in planning as well as facilitate them in classroom teaching process in a team teaching mode. So the responsibility of the art teacher has increased. Subject teachers along with art teachers must plan and discuss the projects in advance at the beginning of the academic session so that students can be given proper guidance to undertake various projects. The focus should be given on research of new topics that are not yet taken in the classroom. Teachers must facilitate exploration of research on the topics to give students hand-on experience. The project should be taken up in an eco-friendly manner using readily available resources without any financial burden on parents or guardians. Right? So now we are now coming to the process कि इसको स्कूल में हम कैसे एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे. हमने सबसे पहले बोला कि art teachers now have an added responsibility to assist the subject teachers. How? They will sit down with the subject teachers. First, the subject teachers will found the interlinkages between the various subjects of that class, the various common topics of that class, and then with the help of art teachers, whether they are the art teachers, music teachers, or dance teacher, they'll all sit down together. What we did was we have a faculty of art teachers and music teachers and dance teachers. We distributed them the various classes that they will assess these teachers of these classes. Already they take sections of those classes only. But then they were specially distributed that they will sit down and work out the interlinkages. First, the teachers will find out the interlinkages between the various subjects. Then they will sit down with these teachers, find new topics, and then discuss how in those topics, how those topics can be taught to children through integration of art and which projects will be undertaken. But one thing, my dear teachers, all have to be clear is that those projects should not add burden to the parent. You know, when formative assessment was introduced, I sometimes feel, why did CCE go away? You know why it was discontinued? Because the parent of especially the rich and the affluent parent whose children were going into those schools were really fed up with it. Why? Because of the formative assessment, because of the projects being given. Once I met a lady in Delhi. Her children were studying in an elite school in Delhi. So she was telling me and she was complaining about CCE. So I said, oh, it's such a good system. We have formative assessment. She said, oh, there are continuous tests, continuous exams. And I said, what about formative assessment? So she looked at me and said, what about formative assessment? I said, it is such a fun. So you know what she said? वो तो मैं करती हूँ ना. उसकी सारी formative assessment में जितने projects होते हैं वो तो मैं बनाती हूँ ना. And I was like, no, this is not what formative assessment is. But this is what the parent was perceiving the formative assessment as. So the biggest fear as an educationist, as a principal one has, is that what will happen is that it will go down to the parent. And the cost will also be borne on the parent, and the effort and the money, energy, everything will go down to the parent. So first you have to be very clear. When we started, I started my discussion with 4 C's. And in that, one of them was collaboration. The first was collaboration. You have to remember that when we are talking about art integration, we are teaching these 4 C's to the children. And the most important C is the collaboration. So children must do it together in the classroom. Because when they will collaborate, automatically their communication will improve, which is another skill which is really required when they go for work in a real life thing. And then, of course, if they will not find out the solution themselves, if some cognition will not be involved, if some thinking on them will not be involved, if parent is doing the thinking, if some shop wala is doing the thinking, who is going to make the project, what is the child going to gain out of it? So the critical thinking will not be developed, leave aside the creativity at all. Right? So it has to be done in an eco-friendly manner. That is, it has to be done in the classroom with readily available local resources, readily available resources in the school, without adding any financial burden on parents or the guardians. So please keep this point in mind. So the teachers may follow the following process of amending arts with other subjects for carrying out the project work. First is the selection of a topic, theme, drawing upon the previous knowledge of the student, then providing creative inquiry opportunity for hands-on learning to students. Because they must explore themselves. Okay, this is the problem. This is the topic. What could all various things we do? Rather than you pre-planning, you can involve students, maybe they come out with it, right? Or you can involve all other teachers and maybe they will come up with the idea and the assessment of students for the subject and art involved both, right? Because we are, of course, as I said, we are teaching art also. They are learning the finer nuances of the art as well. And so I might use it as a formative assessment. I might use it as an internal assessment. I might use it as an assessment for learning that whether my child has learned the concept crudely or not, basically or not. My summative would check the detail, the retention, the recall. But this assessment should check whether the child has picked up the concept or not. Reflection on the new learning of the subject using an art form by the students. So now they will sit and reflect. As I told you in experiential learning, they will talk about their own experience and reflect what did they learn and was it worthwhile. Whatever approach to teaching is used, the intent should focus on learning rather than on teaching. Subjects do not exist in isolation, but links between them should be made. So whatever thing you do, the focus should be on learning. Now let's take some examples. Like we are learning shapes and numbers through craft. Children can make such various shapes, make them the shapes on the blocks. Then perform a skit about how Native Americans felt about European settlers, compose a dance about the butterfly life cycle, create a portrait of a famous artist or literature person. Be sure to use key details to help the viewer identify the character. Teacher can always give the details. Okay, you have to make the portrait of Munshi Premchand. Now the child will go and look for the portrait or a picture of Munshi Premchand on the net, download it and make a drawing as close as possible. So that way your Hindi project can be done along with the portrait making of that particular class. Drawing of spider, knowing its features and characteristics. This is my spider. A spider web is good for the spider because हमने छोड़ दिया, it gets its food. Making imaginative scarecrows and correlating it with the history of agriculture and various cultures. Now, every culture would have a scarecrow, but the clothing of scarecrow would be as per the culture of that society or that country. So you can check on, make various type of scarecrows and check that which society made which type of scarecrows at the different times of history. A creative practice, students make their own caricature and mark their presence on the attendance board. Is there any relationship of maths and music, musical fractions? How did the music symbols come across and how are they related to fractions? Again, the same thing. And now where do they connecting the notes or rhythms of music to movement, word sound, and then making a picture of that insect. So here we are connecting biology, English, music, and maths. Similarly, this. Now, count and clap the beat, syllable in each mini-base, name and the numbers to answer the sum. We all keep doing such small things in the junior classes, But in the third, fourth, fifth, we can make such small things, trying to make craft items working, design it, make it, move it. So interdisciplinary approach in AIL, while designing activities, the possibilities to connect concepts across different subjects should be addressed. In interlinking subjects and activities, the learning outcomes should be aimed at. I have been clearly saying it again and again. When I see the experiential learning lesson plans, many a times it is written that this subject will do this subject, without the teacher having been in connection, linked with or having met those teachers. They will just assume. Then if they are doing this, are they also building some learning outcome? Or just because CBSE has said, or just because we have been told to find interlinkages, we say physics will do this, and is it required in the physics? Is it again meeting some learning outcome? There also you have to keep that in mind. For example, two or more than two learning outcomes can be addressed through a single art activity, but it should be of various subjects or that subject. Now we am taking an exemplar here. Supposingly, we are drawing a rainy scene, because there is a poem called Megha Aaye in my Hindi book, and in science, sound that rain makes, frequency of rain, how rainbow is formed; in social cycle, science, water cycle in nature; in English, compose a poem, write a paragraph, how rain instills life in nature; and in music, why Rag Megh Malhar is named so. Now, there is a beautiful ice-breaking activity, I said, when you are introducing rain in the class. It is very interesting that if you ask children as an icebreaker, that first they will clap with their one finger. Now, not only the sound has increased in its volume, but that's the way when rain, if we do it in the class, I've seen it happening in the group. If we do it like this, it is like this, as if rain has just started falling. As we grow on increasing, it would suddenly, when it will be, everybody will be clapping with the whole hand, you will feel as if the rain is falling full fledged. And children enjoy this activity in the classroom a lot. And they find that as if it is actually raining outside. So was there a difference in the sound of Tali each time, or with varied speed? How have we ever tried to know the reason for the same? It is linked with the sound and the speed in the science chapter. So art makes soul and intellect grow. So placing art at the center of core of our teaching, it will make math, science, languages and history, geography, everything well connected, and it will become the soul of all our subjects. Here are some more exemplars, like who eats whom, biology, paper folding, drawing and craft. Children are doing this, or the butter life cycle of the butterfly. They are using various types of pastas or macaronis. Beekeeping and honey making, rotational motion, universe, SST, science, physics, art, craft. Topic, ecosystem, subjects involved biology, geography, art. Human body, understanding organ location through stone art. We have drawn the various organs on the stones and placed them at the right places in the human body. Then art universe, physics, environment science, biology, mathematics, craft. Topics, unicellular organisms, subjects, biology, and we are doing it through needlework and drawing. Children have made small pieces with the felt. Mathematics, art integrated lesson plan, study of coordinates of points and quadrilaterals. Material parts. Whose mic is on? Check your mic, please. Students will be able to use knowledge of coordinates and various geometrical shapes to design patterns having different geometrical shapes. Correlate with local folk arts. Now, if we have this learning outcome that they have to learn the geometrical shapes or design patterns, then what do? We use the local art form of Fulkari. I came across this lesson plan my maths teachers made, and I really liked it. And so that's why I included it in my presentation. They tried to show that how Pulkari developed and how it uses the basic shapes. Look at it. Later on, this color scheme will be used to do Pulkari on a piece of cloth. So it involves the needlework teachers, but it is so beautiful that all Pulkari's pattern based on mathematics. Similarly, I came across this lesson plan of chemistry class 9 to determine the nature of solution, acidic, base, or neutral with spray painting. So students will cut the paper in circle shape or any other shape. Paper will be divided in 4 parts with pencil and scales. Every 1/4 part of the paper will be coated with different solutions: water, lemon solution, sodium hydroxide, and hydraulic acid. Now there are various types of acid, and on the same paper, we get various colors. Why? Because we have used, as universal indicator gives different colors in different solutions. So all 4 parts on paper will be painted with different colors. That is water part, green color, lemon part, yellow color, sodium hydro, purple color, and hydrochloric acid, red color. So I really liked it. So that's why I thought I'll share it as an exemplar with you people. So another one which I really liked was of class 5. Topic was transport in modern times. So the timeline, mind map, history of transport. These were the material required, and learning outcome. Label different means of transport. Children will be able to label different means of transport according to year of invention. Use timeline chart techniques to in other topics or subject design 3-day paper folding craft of transportation. Now इसमें timeline भी आ गई. Now, from very beginning, from class 5, they come to know how to create the timelines, which is very useful later on in history. So now below the arrow, they will draw different means of transport and color it. जैसे आपने पिछली उसमें देखा, और फिर ये देख रहे हैं कि कब wheel बना, कब balloon बना, कब car बना. So they will start with the wheel, boat, hot air balloon, etc. So as I found this very interesting, so that's why I incorporated it in it. And now with the 3D paper craft work, they all made boats, they all made aeroplanes, and they learned to make the timeline. So that is the most important thing. And how this technique only will be useful to them in learning the various subjects later on. Now there is a quiz which I want all of you to attempt. Mr. Yugesh, will you please share it in the description box?
Yes, ma'am. It's been shared in the chat box. It's been shared in the chat box. So all you are requested to please attempt this quiz, and it will be disabled after 5 minutes. So within 5 minutes, you all have to attempt it.
In this, the chat box, and in the YouTube, the description box?
Yes, ma'am, in the YouTube chat box also. It's in the description box. It has been shared here also and in the YouTube live also.
Okay.
It will be disabled after 5 minutes. 2 more minutes to attempt.
Mr. Yogesh, are there any questions also in the chat box?
So far, ma'am, there is no question. They are just appreciating the content and everything else, whatever you are explaining.
I am reading that many people are saying that there is no link found on the.
No, ma'am, link is very much there.
Can you
Link is
clarify?
very much there.
Because all people are like writing on the chat.
No, sir, it is not visible on YouTube.
Okay, let me check it once again.
Because everybody is writing that.
Okay.
Yeah, यहाँ पे तो है, but not on the live YouTube.
ठीक है मैम शेयर करा डालना वो उसी टाइम डाल दिया था दोनों
It's been shared once again, ma'am.
People are still like writing not found link, no quiz link.
Shared by Police DAV school also. They have shared the link. So 2 times link is there.
Now it has been shared.
Yes, ma'am.
Shalini Bhatia, Manoj Datta, please find. It has been shared by Police DAV at 12. Veena Chauhan, Harpreet Kaur, see on the top of it where Police DAV logo is there, the link is provided. Harpreet Kaur is writing, if somebody found it, it's right top of your chat.
It's been shared once again in the YouTube now. I don't know why people are writing. It's not there.
Okay, should we start? It is getting late. Or should
Yes,
I?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just 1 minute. It's 12:09. At 12:10 you can start, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please start. Okay, ma'am.
So now we come to learning the art through art. So now learning of art itself involves lot of subjects, because like if we have to study primary and secondary colors, we have to study, understand maths, physics and art, all these three subjects. So similarly, if we have to understand colors, we have to understand maths, we have to understand how, we have to understand physics, how when we, and we have to understand chemistry and then the art. So similarly, there is a lot of maths in human body. I don't know if you have ever known that how our body is made proportionately. These proportions have been shown here, that if my face is of this length, then how much various areas of my body is divided as per the size of my face. Section proportions in the face.
Ma'am, we are not able to see the screen.
It is there.
It is very much there, ma'am. It is quite visible.
It is there. Angles and graph, you know, when we have
Yes,
to
ma'am.
draw a Buddha ji, how our angles are important. If we have to make a sculpture, how angles and graphs are important. If we have to make 3D poster, so we need to understand maths. So mathematics and calligraphy, because without maths, we cannot do good calligraphy as well. So few more examples from our curriculum: understanding earth with art and craft on the paper plates, fun Christmas maths activity, ice cream counting. We do it in the small classrooms for kindergarten children, shapes and angles for depicting distance, angles and geometry, needlework for shapes and colors. We have it generally made it in our maths lab, foldable 3D shapes, clay modeling to show the zones of the earth, how we can use the clay to show the various zones of earth, butterfly counting and the dots in the butterfly for the small classes, coloring to understand multiplication, understand shapes, maths, dance, aerobics, multiplication through clay modeling, stained glass windows graph. This had to come in the art through art. Illusions and pattern need mathematics too. Needlework for cells and organisms. People who help us. Small puppets can be made for the EVS topic of people who help us. Solar system stone art. Looking patterns, print and color leaf. Now the role plays. Story, historical incidents studied in class can be created by planning costumes, making props and backgrounds. Two-dimensional materials, costumes can be cut and pinned around. Art integrated project may be conducted as per the following guidelines. Classes for 1 to 8 art integrated project should be of transdisciplinary nature. The project work can include more than one subject, and this can be considered for internal assessment in subject concerned. And for class 9th and 10th, the students will take up the art integrated project work as a subject enrichment activity in all the subjects for internal assessment. Some guidelines. The project can be done by students in groups of 4 or 5 students in each group. While creating projects, it may also be seen that it should not be too much pro art that it becomes difficult for the subject teacher to take it forward and guide the students. Here, I would like to clarify one thing. You know what happened when we in our school started talking about art integration? All the subject teachers started telling the art teachers, now it is your responsibility to do it. We have told you these topics, now find the art activities relevant to it. The art teachers suddenly got overwhelmed because it was actually overwhelming for them, because if they were to understand the topic first and then find the art related activity, or they would just go to the music teacher and say, I have to do the life cycle of a butterfly. Principal ma'am said that you can use a song, find a song. Or they'll go to a dance teacher and say that I have to do the butterfly dance. So you teach them the butterfly dance. See, it is not going to happen like that. These days with the net, use your own creativity also. It's your subject. So first you have to understand that what activity will make the concept clear to them, right? That is important. It is not just because I said kids pe dance kar lijiye. I said, what happened was when we did the last experiential learning webinar, the sample lesson plan which I presented, all the lesson plans I started getting from various teachers from various schools were duplicates of that. Very similar activities were picked up. Exactly the same steps were followed. If we said that, okay, let's do how much knowledge you have previously, that became a code that every teacher is going to check, okay, what you know, what you need to know. It is just an exemplar. Use your own creativity. Nothing pattern is fixed. Right? So it should not be so much of pro art that the child get overwhelmed. ये मेरे से इतना मुश्किल है, मुझसे तो होगा ही नहीं, मैं कैसे करूं? वही बात की फिर वो मदर पे जाएगा, मदर आगे एक आर्ट वाले शॉपकीपर को दे देगी. It has to be a simple activity. I was visualizing that if I told teachers to do role play, तो कहीं हमारे जो ये city के मंगी लाल type of people है, उनका business तो नहीं increase हो जाएगा, because suddenly she will tell children कि कल आपको king Akbar बन के आना है, and the mother will go to मंगी लाल and get the Akbar's costume in the classroom for that 2-minute activity. There was a comedian, Sky Tandon, I don't know what Tandon, he was saying कि मुझे तो आजकल का समझ ही नहीं आता, मेरा बच्चा अचानक कहता कल मुझे टमाटर बन के जाना है. A teacher who is teaching red color suddenly would, because the child goes to elite school, but suddenly says कि कल सब टमाटर बन के आएंगे, या strawberry बन के आएंगे. Now what does the mother do? Tell the father to go and go get the shop like this opened and find out the tomato costume, right? So इतना उसको कॉम्प्लिकेटेड नहीं बनाना है. अगर आपको लगता है कि हर साल ही हमें टमाटर बनाना होगा, ask your needlework teachers to do. Request your principal sir or ma'am to have few such standard costumes in the school which will be used year after year, or just improvise. Wear something red and say I'm a tomato. It's okay if you are not a very fine tomato, right? So the project should be simple and doable for the subject teachers and students without the assistance of art teacher, artist, or others, right? So it should not add on to the work of other people so much that for them it becomes a demotivating activity. Schools and teachers may prepare their calendar by assigning dates and months for the execution of project work by the student, and the records of the assessment of these project work should be maintained at the school. The most important thing when I visualize an art integrated classroom is I do not see it as a typical lecture mode classroom. It has to be full of buzzing activity with workstations, with children working in groups, with desks having gone on the side, or children having been taken to the grounds outdoor and doing the activities there. The art integrated project work should also be an integral part of assessing the students' participation in art-related activities and attainment of learning outcomes for the subjects. The marks awarded for these projects as a part of subject enrichment activities. I have already explained this to you. as the basis of experiencing the learning of concepts across subject. As a part of the thrust on experiential learning, art integrated education will be embedded in the classroom transactions, not only for creating joyful classrooms, but also for imbibing the Indian ethos through integration of Indian art and culture in teaching and learning process at every level. This art integrated approach will strengthen the linkages between education and culture. And you know what? When our government realized that we have to do art integration, they realized first we have to integrate the whole of India. There's so much art in our own country, as we said, that is what forms a culture of a country. And they realized that India is also split in various cultures because every state had its own culture, its own art form. So Indian HRD ministry, at that time it was called HRD ministry, it along with CBSE, first of all, it came up with a project called Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. And they communicated to CBSE to take it up with their own schools so that they could form an integrated approach that will strengthen linkages between education and culture and integration of Indian art and culture in the teaching and learning process at every level. So you know what they did? They, through their circular, conveyed to all the states in the country that they are being paired with another state. Like Punjab, for example, has been linked with Andhra Pradesh. You can see the CBSE circular in which they have paired the various states and union territories. So the purpose was that in Punjab, the children of Punjab will try to understand Andhra Pradesh, and children in Andhra Pradesh will try to understand Punjab. What happens is that when students in Andhra Pradesh would say all North Indians are like that, and Andhra Pradesh people will say, oh, we are not South Indian, we are in the beginning of the South, we are not Tamil Nadu, we are not Kerala. But for an Punjabi student, all anything down Andhra Pradesh is south of India. So if you just understand what Andhra Pradesh stands for, what Andhra Pradesh is all about, so it will increase your understanding and decrease the biases. So CBSE put up, paired this thing and decided that under the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, we will do the cultural learning. So supposingly, what all we could do, like we could understand their dances, like Kuchipudi and Tappu, Tepet, Gulu, Dhimsa. These are the various dances, which even I have never heard. Similarly, their fairs and festivals, right? Pongal, Makar Sankranti, we have heard about them, but how do they celebrate them? Then art forms. Kalamkari, painting, Nirmal paintings, all these arts forms. Then what are their traditional dresses? Jyoti, sari, what all kind of saris are made in Andhra Pradesh? You know, what are their traditional foods? So similarly, children in Andhra Pradesh would study about the food in India, makki ki roti and sarson ka saag. So for them, it is interesting. So, and these projects could be done in the social study, or they could be done in languages also. Like a language teacher could take up that, okay, while doing the literature, find out who are the literary figures of that state. Make their portraits, as I said, write about their life history, or write their life sketch, how they have reached, what are their works of literature which are famous. They could do all kinds of such things. So CBSE has given the suggested activities from class 1 to 12, which are listed below. You can have a reading that you can take any of these, and use them as a art integration project, starting from role play to art exhibition, sketching, jewelry making, beautifying room space, building, choreography, culinary art, as I was giving you culinary art of naan and kebabs, block printing, painting, researching on art forms, organizing art events, so as you have seen that you had to upload all the such material on the CBSE website, that how many periods the art teacher has taken for art integration, which of course for me it is that how art has been used by all other teachers as well along with the art teachers. So, and then which activities were used for which class, what was the project made. So you have to keep a documentation of all this because it will have to be uploaded. The roll numbers couldn't be downloaded unless and until this was uploaded. So that is why what is important is that you will pick up any of these, or it could be outside this list also, although they have tried to make a very exhaustive list. And then, when I found out this, when they encouraged a competition for art teachers to come up with an art integrated exemplar. In this, they have given a beautiful sequence, and that is why I picked it up and made it into a slide, that which class, so you first decide which class, which are the subjects selected, right? Which was the select subject from top to down topic, which was the topic in that subject, art to be integrated. So as the list has been given, इसमें से आपने कौन सा आर्ट फॉर्म लिया, फिर उसमें हमें, जैसा मैं बार बार आपको ड्यूरिंग द प्रेजेंटेशन कहती रही कि प्लीज लिंक इट टू सम लर्निंग आउटकम, ऐसे ही करने के लिए नहीं कर लेना। आई हैव टू, मैंने कोई टॉपिक सेलेक्ट किया है, उसमें मेरा एक लर्निंग आउटकम इस आर्ट एक्टिविटी के थ्रू मीटअप हो रहा है। फिर मेरा कौन सा स्किल, जितने हमने लिस्ट बनाई 21st सेंचुरी स्किल्स, दैट इज व्हाई आई स्टार्टेड माय प्रेजेंटेशन विद दैट कोलैबोरेशन, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, क्रिएटिविटी, इसमें से कौन सा डेवलप हुआ, फिर मेरी कॉम्पिटेंसीज कौन सी डेवलप हुई इसके थ्रू, एंड फिर मेरी मेथोडोलॉजी और प्लान टू इंटीग्रेट आर्ट विद अदर सेलेक्टेड टॉपिक्स क्या रहा। So this has to be followed, all this sequence. My next desire is, I hope all conditions remain well, that all of you as subject teachers, one subject teachers will sit down together. You can be, Mr. Yogesh and Cindy can decide that how few art teachers, music, dance can be part of those groups, and they sit down and they come up with various activities which are art integrated and which will be implemented in all the zone throughout the years, and a proper record will be kept for later uploading and for the principals to check that this is being followed in the classrooms. All students can learn and succeed, but not at the same time or in the same way. So we have to ensure teaching to learn or learning to learn happens, and not teaching to test to lead to transformation, right? Because this is my favorite slide, because if we want a paradigm shift, if we want some transformation, we have to come out of our marks getting fundamental. किसी टीचर से पूछो आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, तो वो कहेगी बच्चों की QPI इंप्रूव करना, मार्क्स लाना। मैंने आपको बिगिनिंग में इसीलिए एक्सप्लेन कर दिया कि नो डाउट दैट इज आवर नंबर 1 प्रायोरिटी, बट अगर सिर्फ मैं ये सोचूं कि मैं नॉलेज ट्रांसमिट कर दूं, उसको रटा दूं और उसके नंबर आ जाए, होता तो नहीं है ऐसा। ऑल चिल्ड्रन डू नॉट लर्न, बिकॉज मेरा पर्पस जो था वो टेस्ट फोकस था। मेरा फोकस ये नहीं था कि बच्चे ने लर्न कर लिया, मेरा फोकस था उसके टेस्ट में नंबर आ जाए, राइट? सो अगर मेरा ये फोकस है तो मुझे कुछ चेंज करना पड़ेगा कि मेरा हर बच्चा लर्न करे, हर बच्चा अच्छा परफॉर्म करे, राइट? उसके लिए मेरे को लर्निंग टू लर्न, मतलब टीचिंग टू लर्न, मेरा फोकस शिफ्ट करना पड़ेगा फ्रॉम टेस्टिंग कि मुझे मार्क्स लाने हैं, बट इम्पोर्टेंटली यह कि बच्चे को अंडरस्टैंड कराना है, और उसका बाय प्रोडक्ट होगा उसकी लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग, एंड उसका बाय प्रोडक्ट होगा कि वो अपने आप जो चीज उसको हमेशा के लिए समझ आ गई वो अच्छा अटेम्प्ट करेगा और उसके मार्क्स आएंगे। दिस ओनली वुड लीड टू ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। सो now it is very important that how do we do assessment in AIL? Uses fine arts and performing arts as a way of learning. The students in the art integration learning must be able to make a video, write a song, or create a painting to demonstrate their learning. So focus किस पर रहेगा कि वो अपनी लर्निंग जो उसने उस सब्जेक्ट का कोर कॉन्सेप्ट पिक किया है उसकी लर्निंग वो एग्जिबिट कर पा रहा है। We must focus on the process and the concept learned rather than the product. एक बात को बहुत अच्छे से समझ लेना, मैं बार बार रिपीट कर रही हूँ कि मुझे ये भूलना नहीं है कि मेरा आर्ट इंटीग्रेशन का पर्पस क्या था। पर्पस था वो कॉन्सेप्ट जो मैंने उसको सिखाना था। वो आर्ट का फाइनल प्रोडक्ट अपने आप में मेरा पर्पस नहीं था, एज लॉन्ग एज इट इज द आर्ट इंटीग्रेशन। सो वी मस्ट फोकस ऑन द प्रोसेस एंड द कॉन्सेप्ट लर्न rather than the product. When I say we must focus on the process because it should be joyful. मैंने अगर एक फुट रूलर पकड़ के, एक रॉड पकड़ कर बच्चों को ये कराना शुरू कर दिया, वो कुछ लर्न नहीं करेंगे फिर उसमें से। मुझे प्रोसेस को ही इतना इंटरेस्टिंग और जॉयफुल बनाना है, एक प्लेजेंट एक्सपीरियंस बनाना है बच्चों के लिए, एक इंजॉयबल एक्सपीरियंस बनाना है, ताकि मैं उनका अफेक्टिव एलिमेंट, जो इमोशनल एलिमेंट है, उसको भी ध्यान रख सकूं। हाउ डू दे फील अबाउट इट? एंड इफ दे फील गुड, दे विल ऑटोमेटिकली लर्न द कॉन्सेप्ट। एंड सो दैट इज वाई कितना शोर हो रहा है, कितना टाइम लग रहा है, मुझे उसके ऊपर ध्यान नहीं देना है। एंड मुझे एंड में क्या फायदा हुआ? कोई बात नहीं, कोई चीज करने में सिर्फ बच्चों को अगर मजा भी आया ना, तो हो सकता है उसका कोई ना कोई बाय प्रोडक्ट, कोई ना कोई लर्निंग जो है वो जरूर हुई होगी। सो व्हाट इज आर्ट? लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड।
Art. When we hear that word, some of our minds jump to museums or framed paintings, and in that context, some people think, nah, I'm not a big fan of art, I just don't get it. Or they think of art as something that's just for intellectuals or artsy people. But really, art is for anyone who wants to experience it, and it's often in more places than we might realize. Songs you like, movies you watch, poems, theater, even a quilt that your grandmother made, all of that and more is art. So you might be wondering, well, then what is art? How do I define it? Well, that's tough. Art's been around for thousands of years, and through the ages it's evolved in a number of different ways. And the reasons for creating it vary from person to person depending on any number of factors. So defining art is pretty tricky, and it's something that's been debated throughout history. There just isn't one agreed upon definition. However, many believe that art is anything that stirs emotion in you. Now, the emotions that get stirred up depend entirely on your own history, your story, everything that comes together to make up who you are. And because of this, 3 different people can experience the same piece of art and have wildly different reactions to it. One person might think it's the most beautiful thing they've ever seen, the second person might hate it, and the third might not feel much of anything at all. And none of them would be wrong. Everyone's entitled to their own preferences and feelings when it comes to art. You know, the way you feel about your favorite song could be the same way that someone else feels about their favorite sculpture. And even though you might not like that sculpture, it can be valuable to consider why that person enjoys it so much. You may learn something about them and maybe even yourself. The term art is really just a label. Over the years, a lot of people have tried to classify what it is or what it isn't, but that's not really what art is about. It's about your personal experience with it and the meaning that you draw from it. Everyone reacts to art differently and has the potential to grow and learn from it. It gives us the opportunity to tell stories, record history, and tap into our emotions in a way that few other things can.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
So as I no, it was a beautiful video making you realize what art is, and there is no right or wrong in art. So that is what is being reinforced again and again. So that is what I'm saying. This an assessment in AIL must be supportive and non-threatening. I sometimes feel sad when in various schools, very good art teachers may create terror in the classrooms. Many times I am taking around and I find children standing in the art classroom, and I ask the teacher and they say, oh, he always forgets to bring the colors. He has not bought the color book or the colors, and that's why I made them stand. And I wonder that with this kind of treatment, will they bring it next time? If I would have made my class joyful, full of fun, they would never forget it. When my children were in school, they would say, oh, today is Wednesday. It is the best day of the week. And I would say, why? Because today we have a games period. And I would be like, oh my God, they're so deprived. Like when they were in 7th or 8th and we could only give them one games period, and I as a principal would say, how sad, shouldn't they have a games period every day so that they look forward to go to school every day? So we as and many times when it would be summer, my teachers would come to me and say, ma'am, it is so much of loo, should we stop the game period? And well, I'll come back home and my children will first ask me question, why did you stop our games period today? And I'll say, it's so hot, but while playing with our friends, we don't feel hot. Please resume it. That will be their request. So I would think that how we as adults, think differently from our children. For them, the heat, the loo doesn't make a difference. They just want to enjoy. So if we want to do something, I sometimes find our children running away from good things which we think good, like yoga. There will be a child sitting in the class. I'm not well, I did not go to the yoga class. And I go to the yoga teacher and say, why don't you make it joyful? Right? Because it has to be supportive and non-threatening. You do it. Do it any way you want to do. When my children were small, we had a music teacher, Gulshan ji. Perhaps all of you know him, an old man. And he would insist on teaching in music to them on a Sunday. So would not say, he would say, no, I have to teach to the children. And suddenly he would come on a Sunday, unassigned time. And my children would come to me and say, oh, sir has come again. We don't want to learn harmonium. We don't want to learn. And I'd say, I can't help it. He has come on his own. And okay. So he would call, Pita, come here. Let's sit only. Let's just play. We won't sing today. You'll enjoy playing harmonium. And lo and behold, slowly, both my children learned music. It was because of his patience and his coaxing them, his handling of them, right? And today they're so grateful when they are able to play instrument or sing, and they'll say, we owe it to Gulshan sir because he was so patient with us. He was so supportive. He was so non-threatening. So please understand, teachers. Sometimes when अभी तो कोई पिटाई नहीं करता, पहले जब कोई टीचर पिटाई कर देता था, मैं बाद में पूछती थी आपने क्यों की, तो कहते इसके भले के लिए। तो मैं बोलती थी उसका भला आप इतना क्यों करते हो? उतना ही करो जितना वो आराम से ले सकता है, राइट? तो इंडियन टीचर के माइंड में ये हटाना मुझे समझ नहीं आता, जब हम स्ट्रिक्ट हो जाते हैं या उसके साथ बहुत स्टर्नली बिहेव करते हैं एंड वी से मैं बच्चे के लिए कर रहा हूँ, इफ चाइल्ड इज नॉट लाइकिंग इट, सर्टेनली it's not being of any use, how much sincere you might be. So assessment has to be supportive and non-threatening. बच्चा उससे डरने ही ना लग जाए, और उसके लिए आपको ये बात समझ लेनी जरूरी है कि हर बच्चा अपनी लर्निंग की स्टेज में अलग जगह पे खड़ा है, राइट? और वो अलग स्पीड से उसी लैडर को पहुंच रहा है। देखिए ये कितना ब्यूटीफुल है। इमेजिन इफ यू कुड डिजाइन द लर्निंग एंड असेसिंग प्रोसेस स्पेसिफिकली बेस्ड ऑन द कॉम्पिटेंसी फॉर ईच चाइल्ड। उसकी बेसलाइन देखिए कि वो कहाँ खड़ा था। आप ये मत सोचिए कि यहाँ पर एक बच्चा है जो सीधा चढ़ा और पहुंच गया, दूसरे के लिए कई लैंडिंग स्टेजेस हो रहे हैं। वो भी एक क्लाउड पर पहुंचा है, कहीं अचीव किया है उसने, वहां से उसको टर्न लेकर दूसरे और क्लाउड पे जाना पड़ रहा है, या ब्रेक लेकर या स्लो स्पीड से जाना पड़ रहा है, बट दे आर ऑल द स्टार्स, दे विल ऑल इवेंचुअली रीच द स्टार। सो दिस यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड। So it must, the assessment in AIL must be with help, support, advice, and guidance. Please remember these words. So assessment in AIL, assessment is an ongoing cyclical process that begins with the identification of clear learning outcomes and can occur at various points within the teaching and learning process. Since the medium of assessment is art, the facilitators can assess both verbal and non-verbal expressions of the students. Assessment technique in AL is non-judgmental, non-comparative, non-competitive. Please remember this, right? कि हमने उसमें कोई जजमेंट नहीं देनी है, वाओ इसका देखो कितना अच्छा है। परसों मेरे पास कुछ एडमिशन के लिए पेरेंट्स आए हुए थे, तो वो मुझे कहने लगे, मैंने बच्चे को बोला कि वो मेरे पास चॉकलेट लेने आया और मैंने उसको कहा ओ यू आर अ स्टार, तो वो कहता दिखाओ कहाँ दिया, तो नर्सरी का बच्चा था, तो मैंने कहा नहीं मैं तो इसको स्टार बुला रही हूँ। तो उसकी नानी वाज एन एक्स टीचर एंड शी सेड ओ हम घर में इसको हर समय स्टार्स देते रहते हैं ना, ये कहीं भी काम लिखता है तो इसलिए उसको स्टार्स अच्छे लगते हैं ना बच्चे को देना। तो आई सेड या अच्छे लगते हैं, लेकिन हम इतनी जजमेंट क्यों देते हैं, यू नो, हर चीज में फिर हम एक लॉलीपॉप क्यों देते हैं, कैरेट क्यों देते हैं, right? She said, because it is so competitive outside. And I said, who made it competitive? We only made it competitive. Who will make it non-competitive? We only will make it non-competitive. And it will start with me, my house, my child's sanskaras, my child's value system, that I have to make it non-competitive. So हम ही क्लास में as teachers उसको competitive बनाते हैं by declaring one as a star and all others as get the feeling I am hopeless, I am useless. You know, when most of the time, and I've seen it is so true for girls who are as such more scared because they are as such less accepted, less strongly taken in the society. उसको को तुम ये करोगे, हाँ मैं नहीं कर सकती। मैंने अपनी फैमिली में हर जगह, जैसे ही मैं मेडिकल कैसे ले लूं, मुझसे तो नहीं होगा, मैं नॉन मेडिकल कैसे ले लूं, मुझसे तो नहीं होगा, एनटीएससी अच्छा खासा ब्राइट बच्चा होगा, मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी, यू नो, बिकॉज उसने हमेशा हमेशा थ्रेटनिंग, जजमेंटल, कंपैरेटिव जजमेंट देखी है अपने लिए। सो उसे आप अपना, हमें क्या है, हम भी इसी तरह से बड़े हुए। हमारे क्लासरूम्स के मास्टर भी ऐसे कहते थे, तू गधा खोता, तुझे कुछ नहीं आता, तू कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा। इन इंडिया perhaps it was initially thought this makes us humble. Our parents would make fun of us in front of others. अरे ये तो ऐसे करता है, ये तो ऐसे करता है। You know, they did not realize that in the process I built a low self-esteem. When I say मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगा, because my self-esteem is low, right? So that is why we do not have to make such derogatory statement in front of the child. Assessment techniques should be relevant and age appropriate. Criteria along with the rubrics for assessment can be devised collectively by teachers and students while planning the projects. हम उनसे पहले से ही शेयर कर सकते हैं कि इसमें नीटनेस नहीं होगी इम्पोर्टेंट, इसमें ये इम्पोर्टेंट होगा किसका प्रोजेक्ट उस कॉन्सेप्ट को बेटर एक्सप्लेन करेगा, कौन क्लास में प्रेजेंटेशन कैसे देगा, राइट? तो उसके ऊपर आपके मार्क्स लगेंगे, उसके ऊपर डिक्लेयर होगा कि किस ग्रुप की प्रेजेंटेशन सबसे अच्छी थी। तो बीच में बच्चे भी कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं कि मैम ये देखेंगे, ये होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए। Students must be informed about the criteria decided for assessment along with maximum marks before the commencement of the work on project. So इस तरह से हम उसके rubrics बना सकते हैं, can display understanding of art form, can dwell on the theme, can show creativity, apply, bring originality, craftsmanship or neatness. And उसके various levels हो सकते हैं, it was exemplary or that is outstanding, proficient, good, evolving, getting better, or it's just a beginning, or nascent, बहुत थोड़ा सा ही अभी उसका प्रोग्रेस हुआ है। इस तरह से हम उसके, जैसे इसमें भी दिखाए गए हैं रूब्रिक्स, हम उसके रूब्रिक्स बनाकर उसके आर्ट वर्क को और या आर्ट इंटीग्रेटेड वर्क को हम जज कर सकते हैं। Being creative is not a hobby. इट इज अ वे ऑफ लाइफ, यू नो। हम ऐसा नहीं कि आज मैंने उसकी क्रिएटिविटी डेवलप कर दी तो बस वो जो मेरी जिंदगी में मैं कोई हॉबी निटिंग करूंगा, ड्राइंग करूंगा, उसमें हो जाएगी। अगर आज हमने क्रिएटिविटी पे फोकस कर दिया, अगर मैंने अपने रूब्रिक्स में कहा कि मैं ओरिजिनलिटी को, नई चीज को सबसे ज्यादा मार्क्स दूंगा, थिंक अबाउट इट, तो मेरी क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग और क्रिएटिविटी जो डेवलप होगी, इट विल फ्लो इनटू एवरीथिंग आई डू इन माय लाइफ, राइट? So creativity is contagious, pass it on. Einstein, who is known to be the #1 scientist world has seen, was so much focused on creativity, and he would feel that it is all about igniting the fire within. So it is all within everybody, he would say, only we need to bring it out. Art is for spiritual guidance, cannot be denied. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. हम जब आर्टिस्टिक कोई चीज कर रहे होते हैं, हम इतना आनंद आ रहा होता है कि मैं उसमें खो जाता हूँ, और बाद में जब मैं उससे देखता हूँ अपने फाइनल प्रोडक्ट को, तो मुझे लगता है दिस इज मी, इट डिफाइंस मी, इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स मी, सो इट गिव्स मी दैट काइंड ऑफ satisfaction. So thank you, and now we are open for any questions. So please ask any question you want to ask.
मैम,
Yes.
मैम गुड आफ्टरनून मैम, मैं रमनदीप डीएवी स्कूल फिलौर।
हाँ जी।
मैम मैंने पूछना था, जैसे मैंने एक एक्टिविटी करवाई थी बच्चों को ऑनलाइन, कि मेरा लेसन है कलात्मक रुचियां, के फ्यूचर में बच्चे क्या बनना चाहते हैं, जो उनमें पोटेंशियल है। तो मैंने उसके साथ एक्टिविटी करवाई थी कि जो आप बनना चाहते हो, जो आप में पोटेंशियल है जिस चीज का, तो अपनी ड्रेस वो तैयार करो। तो बच्चों ने ऑनलाइन अपनी फोटो एडिट करी उसी ड्रेस में, तो क्या वो मेरा आर्ट इंटीग्रेशन में आएगा?
हाँ, आ सकता है, लेकिन आप पहले ये भी सोचो कि लर्निंग आउटकम क्या है।
क्या बच्चे, हाँ, मैंने उसमें ये देखा कि बच्चा अगर अपने आप को उस ड्रेस में देखेगा, तो उसमें वो चीज के लिए मतलब उसमें वो चीज आएगी कि मैं ये बनना चाहता हूँ, मैं कैसा लगूंगा।
दैट इज वेरी इंस्पायरिंग एंड मोटिवेशनल। पर आपका जो सब्जेक्ट क्या, टॉपिक क्या था, उसका लर्निंग आउटकम मिला कि नहीं मिला?
ठीक है जी।
देखो, मैं बार बार यही बात कह रही थी कि दो चीजें ध्यान में रखने, एक कोशिश करनी है कि आपने वेरियस सब्जेक्ट को इन्वॉल्व करना है। चलिए पॉसिबल है नहीं है, आप अपने सब्जेक्ट में तो इंटीग्रेट करिए, लेकिन उसमें हमेशा ये सोचिए जो आप कर रहे हैं इट इज अ गुड एक्टिविटी, वेरी नाइस, लेकिन अपना फोकस क्या होगा? अदरवाइज रमनदीप, प्रॉब्लम वुड कम फॉर प्रिंसिपल और फॉर द टीचर कि उसका जो टाइम है वो लिमिटेड है बच्चों के पास, है ना? तो उसमें उसका अगर हम एक्स्ट्रा एक्टिविटीज करने लग जाए, फिर वो एक्स्ट्रा बन जाएगी। वो करिकुलर तब भी बनी जब मेरा कोई करिकुलर टॉपिक का लर्निंग आउटकम मीट हो रहा था, और उससे उसकी लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग भी हो रही थी, है ना? सो सीबीई में हम कह रहे हैं कॉम्पिटेंसीज डेवलप हो, राइट? तो फोकस सिलेबस खत्म करना नहीं है, राइट? इसलिए हम ऐसी एक्टिविटीज टाइम टू टाइम कर सकते हैं। इट इज अ गुड एक्टिविटी, आई रियली अप्रिशिएट इट।
थैंक यू मैम।
मुझे अपने करिकुलर को भी सेंटर में रखना है, अपने एकेडमिक्स को भी सेंटर में रखना है ना? एज अ सब्जेक्ट टीचर मुझे उससे फोकस शिफ्ट नहीं करना है। हाँ, अगर मैं उसको एज एक्टिविटी, जब आपने कहा कि हम आर्ट इंटीग्रेशन कह सकते हैं, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम अपने आप से ऑनेस्टली पूछिए कि क्या मेरा कोई लर्निंग आउटकम भी मीट हुआ, क्या कोई फंडामेंटल कॉन्सेप्ट भी क्लियर हुआ, ठीक है ना? क्योंकि कोई एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट है, कोई फंडामेंटल कॉन्सेप्ट है। मैंने जब एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग के टॉपिक्स देखने शुरू किए, सपोजिंग हमारे सोशल स्टडी के टीचर्स ने बनाया, मैंने उनको बोला कि एक दिन हमारे घर में डिस्कशन हो रही थी कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया कैसे इलेक्ट होता है, राइट? सो आई सेड कि नन ऑफ अस हैड इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट इट, राइट? अभी मैंने उनको बोला कि देखिए ऐसी चीजें हो कि हमें लाइफ में याद हो जाए कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया कैसे इलेक्ट होता है, राइट? अब उन्होंने क्या किया कि उन्होंने इलेक्शंस का सारा प्रोसेस तैयार कर लिया एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग में, ठीक है? तो उन्होंने बताया कि ये बैलेट बॉक्स होगा, इसमें बैलेट बॉक्स होगा, इसमें वोट डलेगा, ऐसे होगा, ये होगा। तो मैंने उनको कहा कि पता है जब भी इलेक्शंस होते हैं ये सब हम देखते हैं टीवी पे, है ना? ये हमें नजर आता है। आज हमारे बच्चों को भी पता है ये मशीन ऐसी होती है, उसमें ये सिंबल्स होते हैं, ये सब कुछ मुझे बहुत एक्सपोजर है इस चीज का। मुझे ऑलरेडी मैंने अपने एनवायरनमेंट के, अपने सोशल मीडिया, अपने टेलीविजन के थ्रू सीख लिया है, पर मैंने ये नहीं सीखा कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया कैसे इलेक्ट हो। वो एक सीक्रेट प्रोसेस है, राइट, जो मेरे सामने नहीं आता। मुझे सिर्फ बता दिया जाता है कि प्रेसिडेंट ये बन गया। So, जब one of my teachers started working on it, she herself had to contact many college professors. She later on brought that lesson plan to me, and she said कि मैंने college के professor से भी बात की, मैंने उनको conference call पे भी लिया. There was a discussion because उसमें unitary method भी आ गया कि कितना % लोगों के पीछे कौन-कौन वोट करेगा. It was such a complicated process, and she had to simplify it to make it an experiential learning process. And I said, this is the beauty of it. कि वो बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोसेस है, इसीलिए हम सबको 1 मिनटों में नहीं आ जाता है ना. एंड इसीलिए उसको सिंप्लीफाई करना, उसे एक्सपीरियंशियल बनाना मेरी बहुत बड़ी नीड है, बिकॉज मेरा बहुत बड़ा लर्निंग आउटकम मीट हो रहा है. जो चीज मुझे वीडियो से समझ आ रही है, जो चीज मैंने आम जिंदगी में देखी है, राइट, उसको कर देने से मेरा कोई बहुत बड़ा लर्निंग आउटकम नहीं मीट हो रहा है, रमन जी, है ना. मुझे ये बात भी समझनी है, राइट. मेरे अपने टॉपिक में से कोई चीजें, जो चीज इतनी गहरी है, मैं उसको ढूंढूं कि जो मुझे पता है आज मैंने अच्छे से नहीं करा दी तो बच्चों को लाइफ में भूल जाएगी. समझ रहे हैं आप इस बात को कि अपनी प्रायोरिटी कैसे आप सिलेक्ट करेंगे, कौन से टॉपिक सिलेक्ट करेंगे. जब वो टीचर्स ने मेरे को अपना इलेक्शन प्रोसेस का दिखाया, दे मस्ट हैव थॉट कि मैम तो कहेंगे वाह बड़ा बढ़िया बनाया. मैं ये नहीं कहती वो बुरा है, बट आई टोल्ड देम कि देखो मैंने तो आपको एग्जांपल दिया था प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया कैसे सिलेक्ट होता है, बिकॉज वो हमें से किसी को क्लियर नहीं है ना.
जी मैम,
क्योंकि वो इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड प्रोसेस है. अब उसको आर्ट के थ्रू, उसको एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग के थ्रू मैं सिंप्लीफाई कैसे करूंगा, दिस इज माय पर्पस, ताकि वो मुझे लाइफ लॉन्ग, हम कहीं ड्राइंग रूम में बैठ के डिस्कस कर रहे हो तो हम किसी को बता पाए कि हाँ देखो ऐसे होता है, मुझे पता है, मेरी सोशल स्टडी टीचर ने बताया था, एंड देन इट विल बी डिक्लेयर्ड वाओ योर सोशल स्टडी टीचर वाज रियली गुड.
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सो मच मैम.
या मोर क्वेश्चंस प्लीज. Sydney is saying please switch on the cameras for a group photograph. Yeah. और बताइए more questions, my principal colleagues, if you have some question which you feel fine.
हाँ जी मैम, good afternoon.
हाँ जी, good afternoon, Ravi. Yeah.
Ma'am, it was so wonderful. Literally, we enjoyed it. But what I personally feel is, it is wonderful. But it is wonderful when we are listening. So if we are able to listen to this again, it is on Facebook, and one of my suggestions would be that after a week or after a few days, now let us all read it properly, and after a week, now you conduct the webinar, and in the school we can conduct a seminar, in small groups, maybe two or three groups can be in the one school. I think that will be reinforcement. What you have taught, it's wonderful. You have ignited our minds, and then we'll be working together in a small groups.
Yeah, that is of course Ravi, very good idea, because as I said in the beginning that our mind is like a 2-3-year-old child, and especially when we have to unlearn and learn something new, because we are even worse than a small child, because the child is learning a new thing, and for us it is a huge challenge, because first we have to unlearn something, right? So that, because we have to unlearn what I have been doing. The biggest problem in our education setup is that there is a line in English which is the most dangerous line. We have always been doing it like this. हम तो हमेशा से ऐसा करते आए हैं, बच्चे पढ़ते ही आए हैं, you know, मतलब असी नहीं पढ़े, हम भी तो पढ़े हैं, तो हम भी तो बने हैं. तो मैं हमेशा सोचती हूँ क्या बन गए भाई? Are you sure you became the best version of yourself? Are you sure you achieved your best potential which you were born with? You know, why we are satisfied with mediocrity? हो सकता है मैं इससे भी लाइफ में कहीं एक्सेल कर देता, मैं भी गूगल जैसा एक सॉफ्टवेयर बना देता, you know, मतलब मेरे अंदर भी बहुत अनलिमिटेड पोटेंशियल था, गॉड ने डालकर भेजा था, वो आज रियलाइज नहीं हुआ, बिकॉज कहीं मेरे स्कूल में शुरू में से कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ, मैं उसको एक्सेप्ट करूं.
Very true. Teacher could not exploit that. Teacher could not give that.
हम उसे नहीं एक्सप्लोर कर पाए. जैसे मैंने कहा कि अगर आज मुझे ये नहीं आता कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया कैसे सिलेक्ट होता है, तो फिर मैं एजुकेटेड क्या हुआ? राइट? फिर मुझे तो आज किसी ने बताया कि कोविल बन गए प्राइम दिस थिंग प्रेसिडेंट, और मैं जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया था कि क्या हमने कभी सोचा कि ये पानी क्यों नहीं गिरता ड्रॉप बन के? और या हम पानी पलटते हैं कि किसी किसी चीज में कुछ कुछ लगा रह जाता है और कहीं से पूरा चला जाता है। कितनी सिंपल सी ऑब्जर्वेशन है। जब मैं कहती हूँ कि क्लास 1 के बच्चों को आप ये वाला एग्जाम्पल दिखाइए, क्यों? ताकि वो हर चीज को क्वेश्चन कर सके। राइट? जब मेरी ऑफिस में कोई बच्चा एडमिशन के लिए आता है और वो टिक कर नहीं बैठता, तो मैं पेरेंट को कहती हूँ कंग्रेचुलेशन, यू हैव अ वेरी ब्राइट चाइल्ड। है ना? वो मेरा ये ढक्कन खोलेगा, मेरा ये देखेगा, वो ये देखेगा। राइट? एक बार एक अभी पीछे एक आर्मी ऑफिसर कपल मेरे स्कूल में बच्चा दाखिल कराने आया, तो उनका बच्चा पूरा मेरे ऑफिस में उसने धड़म मचा दिया। फादर बेचारे का पूरा काम उसको संभालना। राइट? तो मैंने उनको बोला, मैंने कहा ओके यू हैव अ वेरी ब्राइट सन। कहते रियली मैम? मैंने कहा यू नो माय सन वाज व्हेन ही वाज दिस एज ही वाज लाइक दिस। मैं उसको कहीं ले जाने में मुझे डर लगता था कि वहां पे वो क्योस मचा देगा। तो ही दे सेड हाँ मैम हम भी इसको कहीं नहीं लेके आना चाहते। तो मैंने कहा मुझे सब बोलते थे तुमने उसका गलत नाम रख दिया, वो सौम्य है तो नहीं, तुमने उसका नाम सौम्य रख दिया। तो वो आगे से बोले हाँ मैम हमने भी इसका नाम धैर्य रख दिया है, और सारे हमें कहते हैं इसमें धैर्य तो है ही नहीं है। So I said no, he'll do very well, he will be very bright because वो एक्सप्लोर कर रहा है, वो तुम्हारे रोकने पे भी नहीं रुक रहा है। He has this curiosity। और मेरे पास नेक्स्ट एक कपल आया तो उनका बच्चा आराम से बीच में बैठा है मेरे कुर्सी के बीच में। तो मैंने उनको बोला कि क्या ये आपका लेट चाइल्ड है? यस मैम। मैंने कहा घर में बाकी सारे ग्रोन अप है? यस मैम। मैं कहा ये अडल्ट के साथ रहता है? तो अडल्ट कजन्स के साथ खेलता है? यस मैम। मैंने कहा तो बहुत गड़बड़ है, इसको बच्चों के साथ खिलाओ, ये तो बैठ गया, ये तो टिक गया है, ये कैसे ग्रो करेगा? राइट? सो दिस इज माय वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट थिंग्स कि जो बच्चा एक्सप्लोर कर रहा है। तभी मैंने कहा, जो मैं आपको बॉक्स वाला एग्जांपल दे रही थी कि मेक देम थिंक, अरे इसमें तो मैं हूँ, छोटी सी बात है, बट मेक देम थिंक आउट ऑफ बॉक्स। राइट? वहां से शुरू होगा तो वो लेटर ऑन आउट ऑफ बॉक्स। और हम क्या डरते हैं, वो मुझे चैलेंज करेगा। लाइक आई सेड, बच्चा कह रहा है कि मैम क्या आप बेवकूफों वाली बात कर रहे हो ना मैम, पुलिस बात कर रहे हो, आप तो हर डब्बी में होगे तो हमें तो मिलेगी नहीं।
राइट?
है ना? बात तो छोटी सी है, लेकिन बात उसके प्रोसेस को शुरू करने की है। राइट? एनी अदर?
थैंक यू मैम।
वेलकम जी, थैंक यू। आप प्लीज, बात यही थी कि आप अपने स्कूल्स में करिए, कंटिन्यू रीइंफोर्सिंग इट, एंड एज प्रिंसिपल्स आल्सो यू थिंक अबाउट वेरियस प्रोजेक्ट्स, जैसे कि चैलेंज करिए। मुझे इतना मजा आया जो मैंने आपको प्रेसिडेंट वाला एग्जांपल दिया, जब मेरी टीचर ने बोला मैम इसमें मैथ्स भी इन्वॉल्व है, इसमें हर 1000 के पीछे लिया जाता है कि एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हर 1000 को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है पॉपुलेशन का। एंड शी सेड देन आई वेंट इनटू द फिगर व्हाई 1000। तो फिर मुझे पता चला कि जैसे जब हम कहते हैं कि कितने बॉयज के अगेंस्ट कितनी गर्ल्स हैं, तो हम 1000 का फिगर लेते हैं, हम 100 का नहीं लेते हैं।
Ma'am, I think we are supposed to do it in our school also.
And फिर अब मैथमेटिक्स का क्वेश्चन आता है why 1000 and why not 100, जबकि हम परसेंटेजेस 100 के बेसिस पे निकालते हैं। There was so many interlinkages, unitary method, you know, and आप किसी भी चीज की डेप्थ में जाओगे, आप रियलाइज करोगे कि वो सब्जेक्ट स्टैंड अलोन नहीं है, वो लिंक्ड है दूसरे सब्जेक्ट के साथ। राइट? हाँ जी।
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so
We have
much.
another quiz also, Mr. Yogesh.
Okay. Yogesh, please.
Anji, thank you very much, ma'am, for this wonderful session as always. So you have not only taught us how to integrate art with different subjects, rather you have made this webinar art integrated webinar. Like, may it be a glass of water or that boxes with mirror. So you proved it, like anything can be made art integrated. So this is the best example. So I hopefully we are getting very good responses in the chat box, like excellent session, very informative. They have learned a lot, not only in the Zoom chat box, but in the YouTube also. And some of the participants shared their activities also. So really thankful to you, ma'am. So now we have another quiz for the participants. So they are supposed to attempt that quiz. The link has been shared in the description box in the YouTube. and in a minute or 10 seconds, it will be shared in the Zoom chat box also. So you all are to attempt it within 1 hour. And after 1 hour, it will be disabled. Then the responses, the answers will be shared with the principals. They can share with their teachers afterwards. So once again, thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful session. And we expect such kind of sessions in future also. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
So
you.
link is there in the chat box.
Thank
It
you
will
so much,
remain
ma'am.
It will remain
so much,
active for
ma'am.
1 hour.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yogesh, for all your kind words. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.